Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. Good to be with you this afternoon here in Brisbane, Australia, 1 p.m. I hope you are all well. Do you know what? I have been yawning all morning. I honestly don't know why. I had a reasonable night's sleep. I was up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym, which is, as you know, my normal practice. But I have been like I've been teaching all morning. I've had students here in the studio, or one of them was online actually, an American student. But I've been yawning all the way through everyone's lessons. So if I yawn as we are going ahead and into the rest of today's session, please forgive me. Maybe I didn't get the sleep last night that I thought I did. I hope you've had a great weekend wherever you are. I hope you are safe. The world is certainly the Western world is a troubled place at the moment, isn't it? We of course had the shooting of Charlie Kirk late last week, and regardless of where you might sit on the political spectrum, you know, it's not okay, is it? And just really feeling for his wife and his daughters. Again, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where one sits on the political spectrum. Human life is to be valued and upheld, and that is humanity. We all share this gift called humanity, and regardless of your ideological position on any front, that should underpin everything. Sadly, for some, it does not. Of course, we had, I think it was the tragic stabbing of a Ukrainian lady on the trains in New York days before, the things that are going on in Gaza. Some really troubling things happening. So wherever you are right now, and whatever, you know, wherever you sit in relation to all of these events, I hope you're able to hold it in a managed place, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and that is my hope for all of us here at Voice Essentials. Of course, Voice Essentials is where we don't come to discuss any of those things. We come to discuss singing. But I guess one of the reasons why I kicked off today thinking about those things is because all of those things have a bearing upon our voice, our sense of self, and the way we carry those extraneous events, even those events that, certainly for me, are happening on the other side of the planet, can you know, bear in on our lives in sometimes unseen ways, maybe not even consciously, but they can have an impact on our voice. And it is important, I think, sometimes to, if you're able to, turn and face those events, to, at the very least, acknowledge them as being perhaps present, so that you can continue to manage your voice in a healthy and sustainable manner. And so if you think that might be helpful to you to consider, then I encourage you to do so. On the weekend, let me turn our thoughts to more positive things. On the weekend, we had the rehearsal for my daughter's wedding, which is happening in, it's happening in 2 weeks. I am stepping into a new phase of life where I have a married child. Isn't that crazy? So it was really good to spend the time with the whole bridal party and her in-laws to be, which are just a fantastic couple, and the Pattersons, and yeah, so that'll happen in 2 weeks. Crazy. Which, let me use that as a way to remind us all that we will not be back together here in the live show until October the 12th, Monday the 12th. I'm fairly certain that's the date. And we'll, all things going to plan, we'll be having a special guest, Samantha U'ren. She's been on the show before. She's a singing voice specialist. She'll be coming onto the show and talking with us about... it's actually going to be really interesting. She's going to be talking about steroidal use in singers. From memory, that's what we're talking about. But we'll actually be doing that I'm going to be pre-recording that show because she works on a Monday, and so she can't be with us in person. So I'll pre-record the interview, and then we'll all be able to watch it together Monday the 12th. So the reasons for us not being together for the next 4 weeks is that next week is the studio break. And this time I'll actually be taking the week off kind of to get ready and get everything together ready for the wedding, I think. But certainly to be available. As father of the bride, I need to be available to, run errands and do things that need to be done if I'm asked. Then a week later will be my daughter's wedding. She's having a wedding on a Monday. So much cheaper for them to have it on a Monday than a Saturday. Certainly that's the case here in Australia. A week later, we celebrate here in Brisbane, in Queensland, the state of Australia that I live in. We celebrate the King's birthday. Nowhere near the actual birthday of the King, but nonetheless, as a Commonwealth nation, we celebrate his birthday on that date that I'm referring to, which is 3 Mondays from now. And then, as I said, we're back. And then we'll have a clean run, all things being equal, to the end of November, which, will be here before you know it. It just will be here before we know it. So, I was in Canada 6 weeks ago. How bizarre is that? Such a good trip. But anyway, so today we're going to do a Q&A. Now, we've got one question in the Q&A, which I'm going to get to, despite the fact that the person who asked the question has already told us that he's gone to bed. Erwin, at least hanging around to see, hear the answer to your question. I know you'll catch it in replay. I'm going to answer your question first up. Let me also draw your attention to today's very fun, very cheeky, very novel question in the Q&A, in the poll that we're running in the live chat. If this is just really, make sure you see this through the lens of just having a bit of fun. If your singing voice had a secret hobby, what would it be? Would it be painting notes into rainbows? Solving mysteries in falsetto? Weightlifting notes for power? Or alien karaoke in mixed voice? Oh, that's a bit of fun. I can tell you, I know which one mine would be. I'll tell you a little bit later. Definitely, there's one of mine would definitely be what its secret. It's more what the inclination for my voice is to do, I think. Is it October the 13th, Monday? I've just seen Darkus's comment. I said October 12, which is the case for Americans, North Americans. It must be October the 13th. So I obviously got that date wrong. I think I got October the 12th because that's what I told my American student this morning would be when the next time I meet them. Anyway. Here we go. Let's dive over to Erwin's question. And as always, everyone, I do have to remind us that if we've only got the one question. This is going to be a very short Q&A. So you've got to throw your questions into the live chat. Otherwise, this could be a very short live hangout. Hi, Dan. This is from Erwin, who has gone to bed. Hi, Dan. When I sing with a frontal and high resonance, I can hit a D sharp 5 quite easily. Well, that's impressive. But from E5 onwards, the sound falls. Did I say D sharp 5? Quite easily. But from E5 onwards, the sound falls. I feel it in me throat. I feel it in my throat, and it hurts. What can I do to keep the correct placement? I suspect one of the key things you might want to consider, Erwin, who has gone to bed, I suspect you might want to play with the vowel shaping and modifying the vowel that you are sitting on at the time that you are up there. See if a slight modification of vowel will allow you to maintain consistent placement. Now, as we get up into those regions, and we're talking quite high, D sharp 5, E5, these are up above high C, there is a natural tendency for placement to want to fall back. What we want to do is we want to work with that, but equally mitigate it. So we don't want it to sort of go like that, but we have to sort of manage that. And one of the key ways we can manage that is to modify the vowel appropriate to style. And that's always the challenge, is that certainly if you were a classical singer, which most of us here are not, some of us are, but if you're a classical singer, you can, in fact, you're encouraged to modify and morph vowels quite significantly. And in fact, as a coloratura soprano, you have to modify the vowel significantly to enter up into the sixth octave. But for us contemporaries, we want to be careful that we don't morph it to the point where we start to lose the actual core value of the vowel. And so play with that. Play with the modification. Can I encourage you alongside that, Erwin, who has gone back to bed, or not back to bed, I think Erwin's gone to bed because it was late. My encouragement is to record yourself, because it's not always true that it's not always that when we create certain vowel shapes, we, by virtue of bone conduction and our own internal resonances, may not hear true to form the exact vowel that we are producing that your audience is going to hear. And so it can be really helpful to just use your smartphone, just because you're not listening for necessarily, in this instance, resonance quality, you're listening for intelligibility. Listen to the way that modification is affecting the value of that vowel that you are producing. Make sense? I hope, Erwin, once you come back to have a listen to this, I hope you slept well. Oh dear, where are we going? We are going to come up because we've got two more questions. That's a win. Where are we? Coming up to? Oh, I want to send a shout out to those of you who are have joined and become members of the website, the channel, and you support the channel in that way. Thank you for taking the time to spend a few dollars and supporting the channel. And we've had a couple of new people do that in the last couple of days. Can I just highlight, because there was some confusion during the week, for those who do want to have access to the the growing bank, I think there's over 20 now, of webinars, so like videos like that are like 30 minutes in length that are exclusive to the very top tier of membership for the channel. You cannot access these videos anywhere else. You must be you must join the very top tier, which is still only, I think, the price of a cup of coffee, I think, a month. So just a heads up about that. I'm looking for Rebecca Martin's question here. Where are we coming up here? Rebecca has asked an interesting question. It's interesting in so much as she asks, does training your air help with learning harmony? Yes, if we approach it from a very holistic point of view, in so much as your breath management is so important in your pitch management, and pitch management is pretty crucial in harmony singing. And so you need to be able to manage your air in an efficient, sustainable manner to ensure that your pitch is on. Also, too, depending on where you're sitting in that harmony layout, if you are the lead vocal, this may not be as relevant. But if you are singing the harmonies to the lead, it can sometimes be helpful to just add, to be a bit more ambient in your tonal features, which can require just that little bit more air than a straight, clean tone that you might be applying as the lead vocal. That ambience can allow you to sort of hug the melody with a little bit more blend. That's going to require more air, and so again, there is another reason why air is going to be so beneficial to singing harmony. And yeah, can I and I say this to you again, Rebecca, as a fellow church singer, one of the key things that I noticed, this is going back 20 years when I was a church worship director, which then led me down the path of doing research into the health of contemporary worship singers' voices, is that the most prominent way that I observed and still observe church singers getting better blend as harmony is to go very breathy. And when you have that sort of breath around the core tone, it blends really well. The challenge of that is not only breath management, but it can lead to some maladaptive behaviors of the mechanism, the function of the voice, which can lead to some wear and tear, which in turn can lead to damage. I'm thinking specifically nodules. So just be mindful of that. I don't share that with you, Rebecca, thinking that that's a particular issue for you, but out of interest, just to say that's how I got into the research game, was actually observing that very single fact. Mr. Fomiati, mate, I hope you are well. One of a fellow Brisbaneite does some really cool gigging around town. Question: there are many different techniques singing through a microphone. Would you elaborate on different techniques regarding someone with a big, loud voice that can project their voice easily? That's a really good question, Mr. Fomiati, as you are always given to asking good questions. Can I suggest that someone who has a big, loud voice, more often than not, needs to learn how to not curtail or restrict or confine that big voice, but learn how to be to take advantage of being vocally efficient and just not working as hard. More often than not, when I have someone with a big voice in the studio, they have learnt not only to hear themselves as loud, but to feel themselves as loud, so that when they come to sing, there's a physical expectation that they align with them singing well. And with big voices, often that has a big sensory load. And I find that what I have to do with those singers is to get them to do less, stop working. And it can get to a point where they go, but I don't feel like I'm doing anything. And I'm still watching them, you know. And yes, they have reduced the load and the physicality, and to the point where they feel like they're doing nothing, and yet I'm still observing this, you know, big frame creating a big sound. When that big voice can learn to do less and be more efficient, then there is still benefit in them being amplified with the mic, and it just empowers the sound engineer, whether it be themselves because they're mixing themselves at a small gig, or it's a front of house mix and being run by a front of house engineer. They can pull, you know, the preamps and everything right back and really color the sound to be so much better than if the voice is driving and they've got to put compressors on it and you know, limiters, and it just crushes the tone. Whereas if the singer themselves can just back that off, keep it easy, keep it even, then you're going to get a much better outcome tonally for that big voice. And then when it comes to mic technique, then you're learning to manage the mic so much better than if you're, you know, got the mic down here and then, you know, the mic's picking up a lot of room as well. It allows you to get the mic up and closer so that you've got less room interference and ambience. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Formiati. Can I encourage you, because I know you have a big voice, learn to do less. You are working inefficiently as a singer who has a big voice if you are not learning to rely on the nuance of good microphone setup. I hope that's helpful. Darkus, I'm going to go to this comment from Darkus before I go to your question. Weightlifting notes for power. I put that down, but I do not know what that means. We're just having a bit of fun, Darkus, just in case you came in late after I talked about it. It doesn't really mean anything. It was just a bit of a fun question today for Q&A. But it's just, you know, what is your voice given to doing? I'm going to reveal what my voice is given to doing a little bit later. We'll come back to that. For now, let's go to your question, Darkus. Just drew on myself. I have a soft voice. It is not very loud. So this is kind of the opposite to what Mr. Formiati was asking. How can I make it stronger? Can I sing lead that good? I have to sing backup vocals. No, you can definitely learn to sing lead. And a good example of that might be, now that I go to say her name, it'll come to me. There are a lot of well-known singers that have very what could be declared as small voices, but they have lent into what their voice is capable of doing. What I want you to be mindful of, and so we're just talking about the idea that a big singer needs to back off a whole heap. I want you to be careful to not then think that the opposite is true for smaller voices. So it is not equally true to then say, okay, smaller voices, you have to work more to get the voice bigger. No. A smaller voice needs to still take advantage of resonance to develop volume. Can I encourage you, Darkus? I think you were in last week's show, but if you were not, and for those who are watching live right now and those of you who are going to listen to this Q&A as a replay, hello to you all. Can I encourage you to go back and listen to last week's show where I had Dr. Matthew Allen on from Western Australia, from Edith Cowan University, and his doctoral research was on belt. The healthy, sufficient, efficient, and it is sufficient development of volume. And I want to encourage you to go back and have a listen to the way he describes the development of volume, which we typically associate with this idea of belt. And it is always, and I've been saying it here for years, it's not about more effort. Yes, it is energized, but it's energized in the resonance qualities of the voice. And so developing your resonance, particularly around focus, so twang is such an important factor. Darkus, I encourage you to encourage that. Now, will you, in developing your resonance, suddenly have, a big, massive voice, perhaps like Mr. Fomiati? No, because you're anatomically different. And so you have to work within the, settings of your own body, your own anatomy. But almost every time I work with a singer, in fact, I'll go as far as to say, every time I work with a singer, they are not working, when we first start out, within to the true capacity of their body. If they're a big, loud singer, they're working too hard. If they're a quiet, mousy singer, there's not enough energy appropriately focused and active in the voice. And in both instances, we're able to work to achieve healthy, sustainable volume that is more beneficial for their voices. This is a lovely question. Rebecca is asking, what songs would be played at the wedding? Rebecca, they did mention the name of it because we had to rehearse, the walking down the aisle. It was an instrumental piece. It was quite a lovely piece. Can't remember what it was called because it was a piece that I have to admit I was completely unfamiliar with. And then, much to my surprise and interest, they are walking back out or back down the aisle, as in, okay, the ceremony's over, we're now married, presenting Mr. and Mrs. Patterson. They are walking down to a Cranberries piece. What's the song called? It's a song most of us would know, which is a lot of fun. Yeah, I was just surprised that it was a Cranberries piece. I've had no say in pretty much anything to do with the wedding. Actually, I'll go as far as to say I've had no say in anything at all. I even said to Jodie, my wife, look, you just tell me what to wear, I'll wear it. You just dress me, whatever. I just don't want to get this wrong. And so she's doing that. So they've chosen those pieces. What I can tell you is I'm not singing. I've had a lot of people ask me, understandably, are you singing at the wedding? No, I am not. I am literally just being dad. I'm doing a scripture reading with my wife, and we are also at the reception. We've been asked to give a husband and wife speech, mother and father of the bride speech. We've been told 5 minutes or less. And so that's what we're doing, and yeah, I'm sure it'll be a real celebration of the couple, and it's going to be wonderful. It's just for those of you who have not yet reached the age where your children, if you do have kids, your children are getting married. It's a bit of an unusual experience to approach, because it's not yet happened, right? For me, in 2 weeks, it's interesting. Can I tell you a fun little fact? The gentleman, the minister who is marrying them, his name is Jock. He's actually a very close friend of mine personally. But I was, so this is 24 years ago, because Caitlin, my daughter who's getting married, she was born on the night, September 11, 2001, the day the two towers came down. And so our life was about to radically change, regardless of the fact that the world was about to change. Anyway, that night I was giving, actually it was September the 10th that I was giving a lecture. I was lecturing at a particular place, and when I say lecturing, I was giving a class, like a semester of classes. And in that class was Jock, who is now going to be... So I got a call from my wife, Jody, saying, I've gone into labour. And it was actually Jock who then helped me quickly pack up just a few little things that I needed to take for security-wise, because I left a whole heap of stuff, because it was a sound mixing session. And I took a whole heap, and Jock helped me get it all into the van. Anyway, so here we are 24 years later, and Jock is going to be marrying in 2 weeks' time. So that's a kind of cool little turn of events. We're going to go... Darkus has got one more question, and then I think we might... I'll go to this before we do. Linda is suggesting, I expect you might be a tad emotional, might interfere with your singing voice. Do you know what? I think you're probably right, Linda. But I will tell you, I'm actually not a terribly emotional person. And I think most of my close friends would see me as very stable. I don't say that to suggest that those who are emotional are unstable, because that's not what I'm saying. But I am very, very uneventful emotionally. And so, but I think if I was to sing, I think you're right, Linda. I think that would probably do me in, which is kind of, maybe that's why I'm secretly happy that I haven't been asked to sing. I just get to be dad on the day. Maybe that'll just be enough in and of itself. I'll be emotional enough as it is. Darkus has got one more question, and then we might start to wrap. Oh, we'll go to the question, the Q&A, what is it? The poll. We've got 16 votes. You can all see what the results are. I still keep kicking myself over that. For so long, I didn't realize you could see the results. Anyway, because see on the screen right now, that's what I thought you could all see. But of course, that's not how you actually see it, is it? You're all able to see the live chat, which shows the results. Anyway, can an alto sing lead? There is a first alto and a second alto. Is there a third alto also? So there's a number of ways to answer that question. If you've got 3 altos singing together and there's no one else, one of those altos can take the lead, because it's not governed by the fact that an alto voice is not allowed to sing lead. It's just that typically we will have the soprano or the tenor take the lead. I think this is driven by what has become sort of the social expectation around those 2 voices. But equally, because those 2 voices will cut through the musical landscape a little better than the other voices. But we have to be careful not to suggest that that's the reason why the others should not. Because altos, baritones, basses, they can learn to get more focus and more cut through, and the other voice types, sopranos and tenors, can also learn to blend their voices better as well. So one has to be careful not to suggest that just because you're an alto voice, you're not allowed to sing lead. That's ridiculous. So can an alto sing lead? When we talk about first alto, second alto, we're possibly talking... but it might be that we're identifying that one of those voices is actually a mezzo soprano, so that's sitting between soprano and alto, and that the other one is a true alto or contralto, and therefore you've got the higher of the 2 singing the lead. There is no rules. Actually, there are heaps of rules. But a lot of the rules can be creatively and intentionally broken to great effect. The benefit of knowing the rules is to understand to what degree can you or should you break them, and how can you bend them to your will creatively. But yeah, so the way you've worded that, Dark, is just a little bit hard to answer, but I hope my answer has given you something to think about. It is poll reveal time. You can all see the results. So I feel like, I guess those who are watching afterwards can't see. So maybe that's worth making a point to. So for those of you who are watching the show afterwards and you can't see the results, let's go to them. There's 16 votes. 3, 2, 1. Rebecca, have you got the drum roll going? I'm sure that the drum roll is coming to here. Here's the results. What have we got? Is your singing voice had a secret hobby? What would it be? Painting notes into rainbows. Is an equal tie with weightlifting notes for power, which would be mine. What I have to learn to do with my voice, its secret hobby, let's call it a dirty hobby, its naughty hobby, is to load up too heavily. I have to really manage that. So a bit like the conversation we're having around Mr. Fomiati earlier, the learning to sing with reduced load is what I have to learn to do. Solving mysteries into falsetto, which is fun, and alien karaoke and mixed voice. We probably think, would that equal? We've got a couple of votes in there, which is good. We do have, let's see, we've got one comment from Mr. Fomiati, and then we are going to finish up. So let's quickly jump over here. I'd like to hear more on this, e.g. how different voices cut through the mix and also EQ. Yeah, there's, I mean, we have we done like a Q&A, have we talked more about that in the past? Oh, I've just seen Rebecca's drum roll. Thank you, Rebecca. There is a lot of work you can do on EQ and compression that are going to help at the point of the desk and the mix, but there's a lot that you, the singer, can be doing before the voice even hits the mic to ensure that what is being given, the signal that you are giving to the mic, has got a lot of the data and the information already inbuilt. And I know you and I have worked personally together, Mr. Fomiati. Go back to the twang work. Spend time workshopping the twang. Get the focus. Reduce the pressure. Revisit those classes that we did together, and I think you'll get some benefit from that. Well, folks, it is time for us to finish. As I said, we're going to be apart for the next 4 weeks, and I will miss all of you. And I do hope over the coming weeks and months that you know, the little thing that we made comment about at the beginning of today's live hangout, that you're able to hold in good measure the things that are happening. Can I add, if you are finding some of the things that are happening in the world today a bit overbearing, a bit much, can I encourage you to reach out either to a loved one, a trusted one, to talk, or if you feel it's even beyond that, then talk to a medical practitioner, a counsellor, a licensed therapist, to talk these things through. That burden shared can be that burden halved, and I wouldn't want for any of us to be carrying the burden of the world all by ourselves. We can reach out. Voice Essentials is not the place to do that, but I do want to encourage you to do it if that's what you need to do. I'm going to leave you on that note, and I very much hope to see you again healthy and in good voice. In 4 weeks, we will come back together, and hopefully, as I said, I'll have had the chance to sit down with Samantha U'ren and have a good chat with her. I think it's about, I think from memory, it's going to be about steroidal use in voices, which will be super interesting. And so I very much look forward to seeing you again soon. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.